Hey, and welcome to another episode of Tawana Talks. Today I have the great opportunity of taking it back with my elementary school friend, the now Pastor Reverend Dion Watkins, as we're dropping some Jews on leading with love, planning smart, taking that much-needed Sabbath break. Get ready for some laughs, some great nostalgic throwbacks, and some straight-up wisdom. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Tawana Talks. I am Tawana. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Tawana Talks. I am Tawana. I am super duper excited to introduce my guest for today. So let me just go through these formalities real quick, but they're important. So before I get beside myself, let me formally introduce the Reverend Pastor Dion Watkins. Dion is also an awesome, devoted, and loving husband and father. Now, Dion is the pastor of Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church of Huntsville, Alabama, where he had been the leader, has been the leader of that congregation for the past 2.5 years. But Dion is not new to ministry and his calling. Pastor Watkins has been a leader in pastoral ministry for 22 years. Look at him. He don't even look over 25. His reach has spanned across New York State, Connecticut, and presently in Huntsville, Alabama. He is a graduate from my alma mater, Canisius College, with a bachelor's and a master's in elementary education, and also Northern Seminary for his master's of divinity. Dion has also taught 6th grade for almost 13 years and loves teaching. So with all due respect for the listening, wondering why I am calling the man of God by his first name. Well, first of all, he said I can.
Yes, please do.
And we go way back to kindergarten graduation, paper hats at the Waterfront Elementary School, grades 8 through 8. So I have been calling Dion Watkins, yes, first and last name.
That's right.
Since age 6.
That's crazy. Wow.
But for real, Pastor Dion, I respect you and I am honored to have this time to talk with you. And I just thank you so much. Before we start diving in, what is it that you want to say, that you have to say? Please tell us.
I am so proud of you, I have to say. You know, like you said, it goes back to 6th grade. I think I was in the Lions.
Kindergarten, 6 years old. Don't get it twisted.
I mean, 6th grade. I'm so excited to be here. Kindergarten at Waterfront with the yellow paper hats, like you said, and to see what God has done in your life and how you are depositing so much knowledge in the lives of your students and even those of us who are graced to see you on social media. It's really edifying what you're doing. So I'm proud of you. Allow me, Dr. Wiggins, to say that to you. So you inspire so many. So I'm honored to be here, with you, friend. And Dion is good,
I remember a specific time that I had already moved away from New York and you were still preaching in New York. And you were still living in New York. 716, hashtag 716, Bill's Mafia. And we were in the Galleria Mall and I had saw you and I think you were walking with Bo.
Yeah.
And I were walking and I was like, Dion walking. This is Bo Harris. And you look back and you was like, only you call people by their first and last name.
Big facts, man.
Remember that? I'm like, and why do I remember people's first and last name? I don't know.
I think it was we were like family. We were at that school for 8 years or whatever. So it was, I see people that I haven't seen in years run across them, and you kind of Waterfront was a unique experience, that we had. And those of us that tried to pull something out of it, we still, we carried that right into adulthood. The possibilities,
I agree.
And opportunities presented.
Yeah, and it was a very unique experience. And I try to explain it to people. I was having a conversation with someone from Waterfront a little bit back, and I was trying to explain to somebody what it was like, and they were like, "What was your classes like?" I'm like, "Open," and they're like, "Open like how?" I'm like, "Pits and open."
They had walls.
And they're like, "What were your doors?" I was like, "There weren't any." They was like, "What were the walls?" I'm like, "Cabinets." They were like, "How did you learn?" I'm like, "We did." Like, I don't know what
the noise. That Waterfront taught us how to block out the noise, because I don't know how, like, the classroom noise, it didn't overlap. I don't know, but it's all we knew. And like I said, people just, if you know, you had to go to especially then, because it was the place to be. It's just something, the relationships that have been gained through adulthood. Look at us
And it's
today.
just to
That's
think,
crazy.
like, just inner city kids. Like when I say, well, first of all, there's so much to impact in this, and we haven't even really gotten the content, but this is just good.
Yeah.
There's so much impact. One thing you said is it taught us how to block out the noise. Like there's a word in that. Like being in that in a certain environment allows you to develop certain skills needed
right.
for later in life, right? We're in this space, and only thing I remember is Miss Morrell yelling at Ahmad Burberry.
You know what? Fourth grade, we did used to hear Miss Morrell because we used to be like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be in her class.
Exactly.
Well, I
but other than that,
that,
I don't remember anything else, and being able to grow and learn in that environment. But I also think when I say inner city kids, and I tell people like how'd you know how to swim? I'm like in third grade. They're like, where? I'm like in school. And they're like, you had a pool? I'm like, yeah, we had a pool 3 foot to 12 feet. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And then I realized that wasn't normal.
No, it wasn't. I mean, and even with the band, you know, our music department was amazing to be kids.
Amazing.
You know, all of that. So it was just like that place, it just impacted our lives in so many ways, you know. And I don't know, Waterfront, they got it at that stage in time.
No.
And because we all care, everybody, the Waterfront experience, it was an experience. Everybody that I see, we just like, it's like we've been seeing each other, like we never missed a beat.
Yeah.
You know
and I can physically see the hallways. I can physically see our yellow paper hats. I can physically see the kindergarten classroom with the orange carpets. I can physically see like all of that. It was
the
definitely
governor
like you
coming
said.
to visit, and
yes, you know, the bills coming to visit, like all of that.
Miss Shepherd in the hallway,
yes,
getting it in, yelling.
Miss Crosby, all of that.
Hey, wow.
Do you remember? Somebody did not remember this. Do you remember when you got to be in 8th grade? Well, before we got to 8th grade, if you were in 8th grade, you got to decorate and design the haunted house, which was just in those stairwell stalls on the far corner.
Man.
Do you remember that?
What was the art teacher's name? Miss Kovac?
Miss Kanazzi.
Okay.
Mr. Kovacs was the male teacher. Miss Kanazzi was the lady.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, those opportunities and the things to look forward to like that, it taught us that there's levels to it.
Yeah.
We all, you know, we're all at that school 80 years, and we wanted to make it across that stage. We want to have our graduation, but it was so much to look forward to. Like you said, the arts and all those different things. It was amazing.
Yeah, and I got to correct you, Pastor. It was 9 years. We were kindergarten.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rude.
Hey, you're right.
Don't let that
9
kindergarten
years in that building. Yes, I did
all
leave.
the way through.
I don't know if you know, I left in what grade? 3rd grade. That was the only year I wasn't there. And we moved back. I moved to
so yeah, you didn't have Miss Thomas. I had Miss Thomas.
No, I missed 3rd there. And then I came back in 4th grade. So
yeah,
that was the only.
So you had 8 years. I had 9.
Yeah, you know,
you missing something in your youth.
I did. I left the Waterfront and it was acting a fool when I switched.
And you had to come back. Your mom was like, Your mom was like, absolutely not having this. Let me tell you, for those listening, when I say his mom is not having it, she's the truth. And he can speak more to this. Like, it is evident that that your mom and your sister, but you know, your mom being a staple in your life, and she saw greatness in you. And I say that as an adult, I can say that, but when I look back, and we kind of talked about this off air, Dion wore full suits to school. Picture day, Dion was suited up. And I'm saying suited up, I'm not talking about a shirt and a tie. I'm talking about the jacket, the tie, the shirt. His face was nicely moisturized, all of the things.
All the time.
Your mom saw it in you. So I want to know, through with your extensive background and your drive and all of that, your richness of your upbringing. Tell us, I want to know, like, how did you discover your purpose? Like, how did you come into, first of all, teaching, and then your calling into being such a great pastor? And I shared this with you, and I want to say this on the air, hands down, when we were younger, like I said, Dion's been preaching for 22 years. And I had the privilege.
I was 17, man.
Yeah, I had the privilege and honor of hearing you preach in the very beginning, not just at my home church, but I came to your church several times and heard you. And when when the pastoral ministry was handed over to you, when that pastor stepped down at such a young age, you took on such a great feat. And hands down, you're one of the favorite pastors to hear because you broke it down. It was so relevant.
Oh my gosh, man.
Tell us about the discovery of your purpose.
Well, it started when I was young, probably the waterfront days. Two things I wanted to do. I played school and I played church. When I played school, I had to be the teacher. All my cousins, I bossed them around, and I was the only child, Dr. T, for till 10th grade, almost 10th grade. That's when my sister came, so we're that far apart. So it was just me. So, I mean, don't y'all laugh at me. I used to literally, people do weird things when they're the only child. Line up my stuffed animals.
I did.
I would give them a math test, right?
Did you take home the dittos?
Yes, right. So I took home the dittos. You did the same thing? But I would do that math test, like it was 6 stuffed animals, 6 different ways. So when I corrected it, some got 100, some, my mother laughed.
You differentiated your stuff.
I did. So I'm like, okay. So she'd be like, why is red all over the paper? Do any of your students pass? I wanted to put check marks, So it started with that. Then I played church, put on the choir roll with my cousins, and had to be the preacher. So I always wanted to be a teacher. I did not want to be a preacher. So the teaching thing, I knew it like day one. That was, I don't know. I just wanted to be a teacher. So as life went on, the spiritual piece of it, I was different and I didn't want to be. So in high school, oh, what's up, Rev? I'm like, yo, why are you calling me Rev? Like, I don't want to be, and I was just heated. Don't call me Rev. Just because I try to have some manners and be chill. I don't want to, I was a musician. I did teach Sunday school, and I should have known something. My knowledge of the Bible excelled beyond the teacher, and she was way older than me. She just gave me the class, but I still was like, did he do it? I just, it's crazy, right? So I started teaching my peers, and then before you know it, God was like, a dear friend of ours passed away, Gordon Smith.
Yes.
And that's the first time I heard God. That's the first time I heard God's voice speak to me about my purpose.
Wow.
We were at his homegoing, and I had my head down. We were all about 16. That was somewhere around 96 when Gordy died. I
remember.
Yeah, that, and water, if like I said, if you know, waterfront, we were tight.
Yeah.
So I had my head down at the homegoing, and I heard the Lord come to me. The Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to preach my word and tell young men and women that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. Now, I didn't know that was Romans 6:23. I didn't know that particular scripture. And I kind of just got out of my little cry moment for a minute. And I kind of looked up to the sky. My mother was sitting to my right, and I just shook it off. I'm not telling nobody this, like, no, that can't be God calling me. I'm 16 years old,
Yeah.
And so I was playing football. Everything was about what I wanted to do. And God kept calling me. And I was rejecting it. Even your pastor, Dr. Daniels, I had sang at your church, and he had me stand up and was like, where's that young man? That anointing is on his life. Well, eventually I got to the place where I'm like, God, okay, I need confirmation, because I don't want to be out there doing this thing, and I can't do it unless you're with me. And then finally I just yielded to God, and I literally got on my knees. I was like, Lord, if you send me, I'll go, and the rest is history. It's like I preached my first sermon July 25th, 1997. So it'll be almost 7 years?
Yeah,
whatever.
Because that was our Pastor Daniel's anniversary time. I remember.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because that was around his birthday. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. T, when I start praying for confirmation, that start happening everywhere. Because if you ask God for something, he will reveal himself.
Yeah.
He will reveal, if he spoke it, he will confirm it. And so he kept confirming it over and over. Like I said, then I got down on my knees and just gave it over to him. And that began the ministry journey. At 17, which is my senior year, then I was going to Canisius to go into the teaching. So it was my destiny as a child, I knew, to be a teacher. And then the preacher thing, I've been preaching a long time. I was doing it before I knew that's what I was supposed to do.
You preached half your life.
Yeah, right.
When's your birthday?
December 23rd.
Oh yeah, you've been preaching. Yeah, you've been preaching
Half my life,
Yeah.
And then I started pastoring at 21. So that's our senior year at Canisius. And so that journey has been something. I had, a lot of responsibility, trying to learn what it is to be a leader and grow up and just be a man, and your grandmother's pastor, your mother's pastor, all of that.
Right.
Little
I
Dion,
that,
right?
like you pastor your grandmother.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So here I am, 3 states later.
Yeah, 3 states later. Still repping 716 though.
All day.
All day.
I'm a fanatic. So
yeah,
the journey has been great. It's been a great journey.
I think that is phenomenal. And when you talk about the dynamics of growing into leadership as a young individual, and then also as a young Black male, when you talk about just leadership, when you are in charge of leading those who are in age and season to be wiser because of experience, and now you are charged with leading them and rightly dividing the word in that aspect. When you talk about pastoring your grandmother, pastoring your mother, pastoring your peers, I would love to hear about how that dynamic helped to support and shape you in when I say your successes, not taking credit away from God, but how you were able to feel like, okay, I can do this because of the support. Like, what did that look like?
Well, my first pastorate, I pastored my home church, and they, it said that if you can pastor your family, you could pastor anywhere. And a lot of people say that because of my colleagues, they pastored their family and it didn't work well for them. So I thank God, I know it's favor on my life, because in my first pastorate, I pastored a lot of my family, as you said, my mother and my father, and I was able to bring my father back to Christ when my dad went to college. And actually, let me say this too, how God works. My dad, I was a single parent home, and me and my dad we didn't get real cool. He sent money and stuff and did these little things, but we didn't get real cool and tight until there was some forgiveness. And that happened when I got into the ministry, okay, at 17. And he started following me everywhere with preaching. So fast forward, when I became a pastor, he ended up getting back in church. He joined the church. Next thing you know, he on the usher board. And so my dad, I was my father's spiritual father.
So that's amazing. Listen to that.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? He was coming to me because now he's doing this God thing. Now, I've been doing it a while. He started when he had to go to church and went to college and did his thing. Yeah. And so now he's trying to figure, how does this work? So I was like my dad's mentor, a guy that I really ain't even liked back in the day, but God brought us together. So I became my father's leader. Yeah. I preached a sermon, and my dad was struggling with commitment in his relationships. That man turned around, got a ring. He'd been married. I got to do his ceremony. He'd been married a good while. That convicted him. So being in those positions of pastoring your family and friends to have God use you to help your parents grow and evolve is so humbling. Yeah. It's a humbling experience. And they supported me. They wasn't like, now I took out the garbage for my mom after church. I mean, things ain't changed.
That word, however.
Right. You know what I mean? Hit that garbage. Yeah. But, at the church, they were like, listen, if we don't support you, we really can't hold others accountable that don't. Right. True. We're not with you. And so that, they supported me and they pushed me and they spoke into my life, and it was a great experience. But you also have to be assertive with your family. Like you can't discriminate between any members. My mother was a trustee. I remember one meeting, she interrupted me. And I was like, Sister Anderson, that was tough, man. But I was like, Sister, but imagine that. Yeah. When I'm in my element, right? Imagine. Yeah. Your mom on your team and she not cooperating, and you gotta. But people watch not so much what the people we lead. They don't watch just what we say; they watch what we do. True. And everybody wants to be treated fairly, right? You can't be like, oh, you're on my staff, you're my mom, or you're my cousin. Everybody has to be treated the same. Right. So I had to adjust to that, but being that way helped me go from little Dion to Pastor Watkins. Being assertive and establishing boundaries, and all those different things that you have to have as a leader. And of course, respect and, leading by example. So I learned early, don't just ask people to do things, you do it with them, and what have you. Or if I show you in the classroom, I used to say to my students, we do it together, now you do it.
Right.
And that's the kingdom. That's called in the kingdom. And what I do is making disciples.
Yeah.
They can do it on their own, and they're giving they're sharing the love of Christ and discipling other people. And that's like my biggest passion. Like, okay, you have grown, like building people, helping them grow so they can do what I do. You know what I mean? Because I want to die empty, Dr. T. I don't want nothing. When God called me home, I want to give out everything that he's placed in me, give it away.
That's powerful. I think that's so powerful. One of the talks from season 1 talked about the definition of a leader. And one of those talks, I think I want to mention this one because this one stemmed from my memory of Waterfront. I remember walking places in line, right? Everywhere we walked was in a line. And that was a prominent thing, because if you was a line leader, I mean, you was given some trust. You have been given some a privilege. You have been given some authority, and that what Waterfront taught us in that was not, you didn't abuse your authority. You used your authority to help grow others. So my job as the line leader was to watch what was going on here, so I can protect back here and prepare us for every step of the way. It wasn't so that I can boss, but also move back, Keisha. You're not the line leader. I'm the line leader.
Right. Let me lead.
Right? And your job behind me is to prepare the person behind you, and even the person in the last place is to help move it forward and support the person in front. And so, but all of that came from my thought process of thinking about you in school, and you walk in the line, like it was important. Like, I'm the line leader.
Right.
I'm the line leader. And
that was a thing.
That was a thing. When your teacher said the line leader for today, you was like, let's go. All right. Been preparing for this moment. This is my moment.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, like, what did it look like for your leadership when you had to shift dynamics of being the son, the grandson, the brother, the friend, but now the leader, like, what would you say, like, your definition of the leader? I know you said pouring out and wanting to build others. What would you qualify, like, a definition of a leader?
Oh my gosh. Woo. I always say that a leader is somebody that's focused on the big picture, the objective, the mission. And like that line leader, I remember because you sparked this in my mind. I remember the times I would be the line leader. Every now and then I would look over my shoulder, to see, okay, what's going on behind me. And so, when you're a leader, obviously, if you don't have people behind you, you're just taking a walk by yourself.
Exactly.
But I just remember I used to just look behind me, see my, and so it's crucial that you stay focused on the mission, but it's also important that you bring everybody else along. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody has a role and responsibility in that line. And when it comes to leadership, right? It's understanding that I don't have the skill set to do everything, and I got to be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm focused on the mission. Let's get the ego out of the way, dude. You can't do this. You can't. I'm not for example, I'm not a techie person. So now I gotta, I'm gonna develop your spirit, man. But I need you. I need you to come along the journey because we have a mission. So I'm always focused on the mission, but I need others to come across and come with me. And so I think that's the most important thing about leadership. Understanding your lane, understanding your mission, having your eye on the prize, your objectives, and everybody has roles and responsibility like a football team, right? And I told my church a few weeks ago, our responsibility is to break the huddle. We can't just all stay together or the mission is not going to get accomplished. If you watch football, they break the huddle. They get the play, they break the huddle. And everybody has a responsibility to do what they're supposed to do. So as the leader, we have to be the conductor, not micromanager.
Right.
Keep us focused on the mission. This is the mission. I know you get in your feelings, Sister So-and-so, but this is the mission. So go ahead and cry in the corner. And you got to be tough. You lead in love, but you got to be, you can have your moment. Let's come back and get this work done. we're going, we're moving forward. So I don't know if I answered that.
No, I think that's powerful. Some of the things, the key points that I heard in that is, supporting and building and empowering others. And as a leader, we need to recognize that we can't do it all. A leader don't mean you do it all, because one thing you said is if you walk in line, but you walk by yourself, you just taking a walk. You ain't leading nobody just because you got there first and nobody behind you. You're not leading anybody. If you're not building anybody up, you're not leading anybody. And so building them is recognizing their strengths, recognizing their abilities to grow the team for the mission. My saying is always like, what's your goal? What's the goal? Are we focusing on the goal? And another thing I heard too, and I think this is powerful, and I stamped this as well, is removing your ego. When you put your ego intact, then everything else is out of whack, because you're not on how it affected you, how it hurt you, how all the things. It's like, what's the goal? Like, what's the goal? And I think that's in when parenting, to being a teacher, to being, I remember I used to tell my students all the time, like, it's going to be sometimes I'm going to come here and I'm not going to be my greatest. Like, I'm going to be upset or something may have happened, but my goal is to build and develop you all. And so therefore I can't, you say something, I'm going to be like, you hurt my feelings.
Right.
Like, well, I'm going to address it. Like, let's have a conversation about it, because the goal is our relationship building and building you up. But if I waddle in my feelings, then now I'm reacting to you because I want to hurt your feelings back. And as an adult.
Listen, when we are in the positions where you're a leader, I'm a leader, you're going to encounter criticism, because you have those Monday morning quarterbacks who always can do it better, but they're not even in the game. I'm sure you go, what you do, hey, I would have did it better. I would have had a better lesson plan, because I taught too. I would have. This is what But at the end of the day, you have to have tough skin when you're in leadership. People are going to critique you. And you have to understand, not to pat yourself on the back, but if they ain't talking, you ain't doing nothing anyways. So people are going to talk. You know what I mean?
This morning, I was reading, so my current pastor where I live now just released a book, and part of it, and he said this before in a sermon, and this just stamped, like, when Peter walked on water, people criticized, like everybody's criticizing, like, he took his eye off Jesus and he fell in the water. It was like, but you was in the boat.
Boat huggers.
You got a lot to say in the boat. He at least stepped on water. He took more of a step. So he the best water walker ever, because he walked on water. You was in the boat.
And that's another piece of leadership. He took risks. And we have to take risks, because how do you think trends come? Things are trending because somebody had to take a risk and do something that's never been done before. True. You know what I mean? And we have to take a risk, but we also have to unpack whatever we're doing. We have to unpack it to our team, because a lot of times we'll get offended. We can get offended if we have a great vision or idea. We unpack it, and people are like, That's because it's marinated in our spirit so long, and we're like, So what I start learning to do, hey, I'm thinking the church. I'm thinking about doing this. Get this gas away. Let's think about, let's give gas away. I don't care if you atheist. I don't care if you what. No strings attached. Let's show the love of Christ. I'm learning to unpack the vision and strategy.
Yeah.
I just want people to be excited. I'm excited to do things, so now I unpack it, and you talk to people who have influence on your team, because there's always somebody who has influence. It could be for the good or the bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll bring my biggest critic in church and invite them to be on the committee, because that'll give me a little insight on the noise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That devil advocate person.
That's powerful.
Yeah, all these violinists on there. Oh, yes, pastor. No, I don't need that. I don't need all of yes pastors. I don't want yes people around me, because you got to check me sometime as a leader.
I want some constructive conflict.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because that's going to help open up the doors of and give me a vantage point of an area that I wasn't thinking about. That's why you need to have a diversified team, a diversified group. When we talk about diversified, I'm talking about, I'm big on diversity when it comes to generation diversity.
I'm taking notes
because when we think about, there's a lot to learn from, the baby boomers. There's a
Oh,
lot to
yes.
learn from our generation, the Generation X. There's a lot to learn from Generation Z, the
See, yeah,
Millennials, Generation Z, Alpha, because
right.
everybody has a different perspective because of what their experience has
Yes.
allowed them. So like we mentioned in the beginning, and I don't know if we were recording when we talked about this, you had to be there was that space, that environment taught you something. So we talked about waterfront not having doors and walls. It taught us how to block out the noise. That's something we learned from that environment. When we think about the millennials and the Gen Zs and Alphas, they've never experienced life without internet. And so
Right.
there's a lot to learn
And
from them because they know how to tap into these spaces that we are just learning, how the baby boomers
yep,
never, just had it now. And so it's a lot of
that's so
diversified
true.
thinking that we have to think about with that. But you also said something else with regards to strategy. I want to mention strategy and bringing in the critics. One part was strategizing. I think that's an important notion for
Right.
leaders. And for me, just to stamp this, a leader is anybody. If you woke up this morning, you are a leader.
Yeah.
And strategy is important. Sometimes people think, well, if I sat down and I kind of just planned it out, then it's not authentic. Well, if you don't have a plan, then you don't know where you're going. So like, if you think about it this way, if you're traveling from one place to another and you've never been there, you're taking a vacation, let's say you're driving. If you don't
That's right.
plan it out, that's not inauthentic. That's stupid.
Right. Straight up. It
Where
is
you
just
going?
hey, what are we doing?
Where are you going?
Yeah. And if you
I
don't have
attended a session on strategic planning from an organization here in North Carolina that works with Christian businesses, and they talked about strategic planning and how it's in the Bible, how the Apostle Paul had a strategy when he was preaching the word throughout the several different areas, and how you have to have a strategic plan to be able to, one, plan for what could happen, plan for what you want to happen, and plan for the things that you don't even know is going to happen, so that you are never acting in a reactive way. You are proactively thinking. But then also, I like to think of the thought process of you're operating in a thriving mentality and not a surviving. The survival focuses on death. You're just running away from not dying. Thriving is focused on life because you're running towards life, right?
Thank you. A lot of people's businesses, and because in church today, you can't just say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus has to be in the workplace. You have to do ministry. You have to do the marketplace ministry, ministry, not just at church, but the marketplace. You have entrepreneurs at your church. You have people such as yourself, and you cannot just do things. You can't do church and think your church is going to evolve with the times if you're not intentional. That's what I'm trying to say.
Intentional.
You have to be intentional. And I think some of my colleagues, they just do church and because out of ritual and routine without taking time. This is what we do. So my mind as a leader, I pastor that in that capacity. I should be always praying about different ways to show the love of Christ and build up the people and the community. If you don't do that, you're not going to be relevant.
Right.
So it's, just being intentional, that is so crucial. The members are in 2024, but my mind on 2026. See, that's what leaders, you feel me? So that's where I'm already like, I'm seeing a big women's conference. It was 100 people. Now I'm seeing 1,000. So it's always staying a step ahead. And like you said, bringing people in with different opinions and all those. I just recently did it. I invited a specific member who was a big critic of mine to be a part of my biggest outreach of the summer. And it's a multi-generational team. She said to me, you sure you sent the email to me? You meant to send that to me? Because she got wind that I know, her, she can be shady sometimes. I'm keeping it up. But she was shocked that I didn't run away from her.
Right.
Her close. Because if you give me a chance and you work with me and if you have understanding, sometimes that can drown. When people have understanding, they can drown out the noise. You understand my heart. This is why I'm doing this the way I'm doing it. This is why I think this curriculum should be this way. This,
right.
This is the why. Get connected to the leader. And then when you hear my heart, maybe you start running your mouth so much.
Right. And it gives me an insight to why you feel the way you feel, because maybe it gives me a sight of something that I need to look at. Because there's those that preached a message on there's 4 yous. There's the you that you know. There's the you that your close friends know, that they can be like, hey, let me pull your coattail for a second. I see you. There's the you that others see that you don't see. And then there's the you that only God knows. And so sometimes the you that you don't see is the you that people that are the critics could kind of shed some light. And they may be doing it in a way that's that's malicious or not favorable. But that also says, okay, well, let me kind of take some of that criticism and see what's the validity, where's my growth pattern, what am I doing that could possibly have you to think that way. And it may not be anything that I'm doing, you're just interpreting it, but I can say, well, how is that my actions being interpreted that way? Let me investigate that further. I need to bring you closer. Let's have a conversation.
And you know this, Dr. T, the critics always talk about you and tend not to talk to you. So they don't have they're ignorant to even understand your why. So what they're doing is filling in the blanks of why she did that or why he moved. And then it's I think it should be. Well, you should have just came to me.
Right.
And figured out how to unpack it for me, that maybe, let me suggest maybe this, that, and the third. So I just brought the lady on. I said, I'm just going to put her on this team and take a risk.
And that's wise.
And she's shocked that I, put her on the team, and I built her up. That's growth for me though. Because I could be petty back in the day when God was still working on me and saying, you know what? She can miss me with that. I'm not going to deal with the lady. I'm going to love her because, I'm her pastor. I'm not going to take that and bring her to the table. She probably going to try to sabotage the whole thing. But when you grow, you grow in leadership, you grow in the grace of God, and understands that just because she doesn't agree with me, that doesn't make her a bad person. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have something to offer. Because like you said, Dr. T, we all are leaders when we woke up, and so I know the lady has something to offer. I know where she worked at, and, but I said, I'm going to take a risk, bring her on the team. So I guess back again, take risks and learning how to deal with difficult people in leadership is big. Even in church, it's difficult people in church.
Yeah, it is. And I think 2 things with that is when you think about being a leader, sometimes identifying when people have some negativity. If you're able to develop a relationship or have the insight to kind of think, this may not be a cry for, I don't want you to do well. This may be a cry for, there's something in that person that I need to be able to bring out. So putting a person on a team is like, they, like for instance, if I remember I had a student that was so argumentative all the time. And I was like, you are going to be a phenomenal attorney. Like this, the way that she would be argumentative, she would plead a case, she would do the whole thing where I saw you do that. And she's like, no, it wasn't me. How you see it? Like, show me proof. And I'm like, and I was like, and I had to build her to say, you have such a spirit of, you can plead a case, you can fight all of these things, and being able to pull that out of her, to recognize that. I think about too, like, Karima, my good friend Karima, Karima. So, Karima's an attorney. That was shown in our childhood. Like when she would argue a case in class, and we was like, you're going to be in somebody's courtroom. Like, this is crazy. But when you are in leadership, recognizing things, and that's, again, removing your ego. When you can remove your ego, you can recognize there's something in this person that this can qualify as a great asset if I help to nurture that.
That's powerful.
If I help to build that. And if I put them in spaces, that's going to empower them to use that, what some can look at as being, and that was what season 1 is looking at, something that could be negative. And if I put that in a space, that can be used to turn something all the way around. Let's put that power, let's put that energy into something greater. And when you recognize that in somebody, they're like, oh, arguing can be, okay, let me see how let me turn up right here. I can do this. You know what I mean? And then I think about, like, when you said too, like, putting them in space. There was a TED Talk that I was listening to, and it said, recognize those who are speaking against you. Like, put them on the front row in your mind, put them on the front row when you invite them, so that they know, I see you, see me, see you. Now that we got that out the way, I'm gonna do what I do.
Yo, that's amazing. Oh, that was good. You done blessed me today. That is so good.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, that comes from growth because I would flee from people like that. I think people, a cop out is using you're a hater. In leader, you're just a hater, but you still have value. So, those in prison have value. They just made bad decisions. You know what I mean? So I have to look, and my understanding of God's grace helps me deal with difficult people and leadership and things of that nature, because I'm not always the best child for him, and he doesn't do away with me, and he still uses me.
Right.
I have to extend that grace to people that's getting on my nerves in these church business meetings or whatever.
Yeah.
And don't crack under pressure, keep my composure. Some people make you pray in your head, but it's cool. Even when I was teaching, some of my colleagues, some of them, I didn't know why they were in the teaching. I was like, why are you in the teaching, always complaining and booming? Why are you
doing this if you don't like it?
Right, you took time, put your clothes on. You went to school for this, and you're miserable. You know what I mean? And I would have to, being in a predominant, in my elementary school, I was the only Black male in that building, and it was only a white male. It was two sixth grade teachers, me and him. You either got Mr. Still, white guy, or the Black pastor who don't play and all that. So, I had to be at the school. Some days I had to be the pastor there. And sometimes I had to check my colleagues to remind them that this is what you signed up for.
Right,
so
right.
Make the best out of it, the situation, because we're trying to build future leaders.
Yeah. That's powerful. I really hear when you said, like, this is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
You got to make the best of it. But I think that's just in life in general. Like, my daughter, she teaches me so much on what kind of leader I am at a 9-year-old. Like, she has that ability and she doesn't even know it because I have to constantly reflect on what she's doing, what I'm saying, how I'm doing. She is a direct reflection of me because we spend so much time together. And I found myself actually saying to her yesterday, we do our Bible devotions at night, and usually there's something on our YouVersion app, but there's also this cool one that comes daily in the app as well that we do daily. And over the weekend, she was spending that over a family member's house, and so we didn't do that one in the morning. So I was like, we'll just do this at night. She's like upset, and she turned her back and she laying down, and she like fussed. And so my words to her were, all of that is not going to change what we're doing. So you might as well make the best of the situation, because you wasted time with all that nonsense.
Oh, that's so good.
See, like, you signed up for this, so you might as well make the best of it.
That's it. That's what I try to say it. I'm like, kids,
because you're not gonna get this time back.
Like, make the best of it, because you
make the best.
You're gonna read this book. Gonna do this.
Exactly. You're just gonna this is it. This is what it's gonna be.
Right.
Wow. It's gonna be up to you on how this is going to be.
Right.
So why don't you just make the best of it?
That's the truth.
But then you have to ask the question, what's your goal? Is your goal to be upset? Because you're doing a really good job. You're doing a really, and then she'll say, I don't want to be upset. Okay.
You gotta let it go, baby. You gotta let it go. That's also that's another part of leadership.
Yeah.
We have to let it go.
Yeah.
We have to let it go. And when we have difficult days, you got to take care of yourself and have Sabbath moments.
Yeah.
Especially if you lead a lot of people and you interact with a lot of people, you have to have a Sabbath moment. And I always use this illustration. When we go on the plane, they always talk about if the altitude drops and the masks fall, they always say this, put your mask on first. Because if you don't put your mask on first, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. And so I always encourage my leaders, I was like, listen, make sure you guys take time, out of church, have some stuff that's not in church, go to a beach, chill, read a book, but make sure you are constantly revived. So, because you won't be good for anybody else.
Yeah.
And we know how to mask. We know how, some of us been wearing masks before it was a pandemic.
Right.
It wasn't, but it was in, especially in leadership, because we always got to have it together, and we got to, so you got to make sure you take care of yourself. I push that, because I always tell the church folk, y'all not killing me.
Right.
I tell them I'm be going 5 to 6 Sundays a year. I tell them straight up, because I need to come, and I come back when you're away, Dr. T, you know this, my creativity just goes through the roof when I
Yeah.
go out of town and I disconnect. And that's so important. In the book of Exodus, I think it was Moses' father-in-law was like, dude, you're really having problems because you won't delegate responsibility and take time to let your get off. You think you got to do everything, buddy. You're really struggling because you won't allow the people around you to lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Oh,
what I
that's
mean?
good.
Take time for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
tell them, I'm not taking time to go to church. I may be in Fort Lauderdale, me and my wife or whatever. We chilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get away from this environment so we can
Right.
be.
Yeah. That's good. I read a book called You Are Awesome by Neil. Last name starts with a P. I don't remember the exact last name, but in the book he
What
talked
was it
about
again?
that
I'm
same.
sorry. What
It's
was it?
called You're Awesome
Oh, okay.
by Neil. I'll send you the actual author, but You Are Awesome is what it's called. And he had that same concept of taking a break, but he broke it down. One thing he said that really stuck in the book was it is quite what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, goodness. Um what's the new trending word that the Gen Zs use if you the word if you're focusing on yourself all the time. What's goodness gracious?
Self-care?
No.
Self-care?
The negative word, like
Right.
you are a narcissistic. Yeah, that's what he said. He said it's quite narcissistic to think that that an organization or something can't function without you. And he was like, and when you, and he said, there's some organizations out there that will fine you if you take a break. If you take fine you if you take a break and you're working. So if you're on vacation and you're sending emails, they dock your pay.
What?
He said, because it's narcissistic for you to think nothing can go on without you. Yep. So when you take a break, you need to be on break. And I had to learn that in my leadership was like, oh my goodness, like, because you felt bad about like, if I'm not there, if I'm not this, but then that goes with your strategic plan of how are you strategizing to build leaders so that you can step away and you know things will be well. How are you empowering your leaders? And that's as a woman, I have to say, and I don't know what this looks like for men because I've never been there, but as a woman, I'm a mom and I'm a nurturer. So I've been a mom for 27 years. And so when I think about being a mom, my thing is, let me get this fixed for you. Let me get this set for you. And I did a talk on this in season 1.
Wow.
But that's not how your leadership should be. You should your leadership should be nurtured. And even in your parenting, we've developed this thing. Let me do it. But what the people you are leading is thinking, you don't think I can do it. So that's why you're doing all of this. That nurturing has to shift to, I am empowering you, but I want you kind of how God is like, I want you to do it, but I'm here for consultation. I'm here for questions. I'm here for guidance. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because you have your own experiences. But that's so powerful because then you empower people so that you can, that's that strategy. You're putting the work in on the front end, so on the back end, you can say, no, I'm good. I can step away so that I can come back and continue to be the leader that I need to be.
And we're secure in our gifting and who God created us to be, that I don't just want you to manage it. I want you to kill it. If I'm going, like somebody's preaching in for me or you're a sub for Bible study, no, I want you to win. I want, I'm secure in who I am, pastor. You got to get them back. Or let Reverend so-and-so did an amazing job. Praise God.
Right.
Because now Reverend so-and-so, he did an amazing job. That means I can give them more reps to do it.
Yeah.
I can be resting a little bit more or whatever. I can be working on something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want you to win. I don't want you to just be a time filler. No, I want you to win and take it, and make it your own. I always tell my preachers. And one thing I do, and that's the teacher in me, anytime I need a sub, though, it's that strategic planning. I do script it, but I say, you can take my script, my lesson plan, you make it your own.
Yeah.
But I can't stop doing lesson plans. I've been out of the classroom 10 years, and I'm in church doing lesson plans, objectives, and
That's good. I mean, that's the teaching. Preaching is teaching. That's the teaching in you. I think that like everything that you said is like the pure epitome of what the purpose of TO Collaborative is, what the purpose of this podcast is nurturing leaders for lasting success. And what that looks like is, how do we create environments where others can thrive in their leadership and whatever that looks like. And all of the things that you've discussed are those things. And so being the man of God and being a preacher that you are, and being the teacher that you are, and me being a teacher and knowing that the only way to drive something is that you got to hit them points one more time, one more again, hit them points so that people can have that stamping like, all right, let's make sure we reached our goal. Let's make sure we reached our objective. As we start to kind of veer and close off, I want you to just hit 3 points of what you feel like is the key takeaways for the listeners in our conversation today, as they are able to pull that nugget or that to say, I heard myself in this, I saw myself in this, and here's something that I can gravitate to and hold on to that can get me to the next step.
Okay, so I think that we should always lead by example, not me just because I have the authority, not me just telling you to do it, but, you know, showing you, being I'm big on community. So, you know, do things with your team. So lead by example, but do things with them. That's one. Then make sure you lead in love. Again, just because I have the authority and I can say, you can't do this, or this choir can't do this, or this team can't do that. Lead in love, man. You know, people will respect you. They'll respect the decisions made concerning them. They will, if in time, maybe they're not in the moment, but they'll respect it if you do it in love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They'll respect it. They may not get it in that moment. And that's what parenting too. I gotta do that because I love you. You know what I'm saying? I love you. That's what I'm gonna have to write you up. I'm saying on the business thing. Right. I love you though. I want you to stop. I want you to change this behavior.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you why. So lead in love, lead by example, lead in love, and empower those who you lead to lead.
Yeah.
Empower them. No.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Lead in love, lead by example, and empower those that you're leading. Yeah. I love that. I think that those are just some great points. And it's like so clear. Like when you're like, yeah, that's clear. But it's like, but why is not everybody not doing it? Because I think it comes with a strategic plan. When you think about leading in love, and it's like when you think about your kids, like, you're not going to understand this, but if I have a strategic plan, that means I'm a couple steps ahead. So because I planned out for this, so I know where this is going to take you. I know where I'm trying to get you to. But if you don't have that strategic plan, you are being very active in your leadership because you have no idea where nobody's going. And so
then you're making stuff up. Then it's harder for me to not be prepared. It's hard to make it up. I don't like that kind of pressure. Like you got to make up something. No, I want to, like you said, I want to know it frontwards and backwards because that's my conviction.
Yeah.
If you don't have a conviction about it, nobody's going to even follow that. You're not even organized. You come late all the time. You're supposed to be the leader. You do this. You're not convicted about what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I just felt something like when you don't have a strategy, your ego takes over. You don't have it. You don't have a strategy. Then your ego is going to say, oh, well, I'm going to step up. I'm about to be the leader. Your ego leads when you don't strategize. And that never works out well because every idea, every action is always personal and very reactive.
Yep. And I'm gonna have to watch you. My ego talking because you'll be preaching Sunday in a minute because you dropping nuggets, Dr. T. I gotta watch out now.
Listen, it's so funny, and we'll start to close out. But it's so funny when I'm like doing my morning devotion and taking my notes. I'll be finding myself like, okay, 3 points. I'm like, hold on, not 3 points. Nobody's gonna hear this.
Better watch 3 points.
It's just for me. What's the 3? Oh.
And don't mess around and start using alliterative points, using alliteration too. Now
I do. That's the crazy part. And my notes, like. Right now, okay, on the air, I'll say this. Maybe I won't say it on air. I'm gonna say it off the air about something I'm kind of strategizing because I need some pastoral guidance and thinking this through. But I'm like, oh my God, my mind is being blown just by this thought. But listeners, that's gonna have to be in a talk that y'all get, and I will share that. But I'm gonna need to talk to my friend, the pastor, Reverend Dion Watkins, off air on that. So y'all get that. But Dion, I'm so grateful for this time. Again, this is about nurturing leaders, lasting success, providing environments of support. Tell us, the listeners, like, how can we support you? What are some things that you have upcoming some initiatives, some events? What is it that the listeners and the viewers can do to just uplift you in your leadership?
No, I appreciate it. Well, I'm the pastor of Progressive Union, Missionary Baptist Church. You can check us out. We worship at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. We are a church in the word, making a difference in the world. That's our motto. That's what we live by. So we do a lot of outreach things. And one of our biggest ones this summer is 4G. It's called 4G. That the G is God, groceries, gear, and what's the other one? God, groceries, gear, and
Is it gas?
oh, no, it's not gas. God, Lord, have mercy. I'm giving a plug and I'm messing up. God, groceries, gear, and gifts.
Yeah.
So basically what we're going to do this summer real quick, because you can contribute to that if you want to sow and seed to the church. It's not for us, it's for the community. So the God piece is we're going to send an evangelistic team out in the community. They're going to do prayer walks and minister to the spiritual needs of the community. The gifts part, we're going to choose a senior citizen home and we're going to give them dinner and give them a little program and minister to them and give them gifts. The gear part, we're going to give $10,000 worth of gift cards out for sneakers for back to school. Awesome. And the groceries, we're going to choose 4 sneaker stores for that. And we do 10,000 for groceries around school time. People are going to get in line, and we're going to pay for their groceries. So if you want to sow into that 4G, God, groceries, gear, gifts, you can sow into that. But that's our biggest one of the summer. I'm big on paying it back. So
where can people go to sow into that?
They can go right to our website. It's PUMB Church, PUMBchurch.org. Okay. All right. That stands for Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church. So PUMBchurch.org. And then it's a giving section on there. And it'll say 4G. You can sow into that. But we're coming. Community, we're coming. Yeah. We're excited to bless the people. We can't get our praise on and I hope nobody else.
Awesome. Our the link to what Pastor Watkins has says will be in the comments and in the description so that you can be able to reach out and sow a seed and support if you so desire to do so. Yep. If this word and this message has blessed you, then share it. If you've seen something of yourself in it, if you think you see somebody else, then share it with them. But Dion, it has been an honor and a privilege and a blessing to share this space with you and have this experience of time reminiscing and also diving deeper into leadership and how we can support others in their leadership. Any final words before we close out?
Thank you for having me. Keep shining, my sister. I'm so proud of you. And everybody out there, again, take care of yourself so you can continue to be a blessing to other people.
Awesome.